Right, I'm smiling, guys. I'm looking at all three of us, and we've all got the sun lighting up our rooms. Times have changed. Celtic are even scoring goals. We scored 6 of them on Saturday against Livingston. Jackie, you were at Celtic Park. Just on a separate point, how good did Celtic Park look on Saturday in that sunshine, and how much are all of us missing it?
Yeah, I thought it was a great day. Actually, it was a good one to be there. You know, the other ones that have been, it's you're kind of looking for some goals and excitement in the game. But at least the weekend it was 6, but it could have been double figures. In all honesty, I thought the performance was good. A little bit fortunate, one or two finishes, but they had some amount of efforts which we've had the last number of games. You know, had plenty of attempts without getting the goals. You just felt like that kind of result was coming.
Yeah. You and Alan Stubbs also making a few waves, talking about Eddie Howe on an official club platform, Jackie. That seemed to go down with well with sections of the Celtic support. Reading a bit too much into that. The main thing I took away from the game, Jackie, and I'm not sure if you're kind of having these same thoughts about Celtic at the moment as me. Under Kennedy, was conceded 1 goal in 5 matches. Do you think it's that stability in defence that's allowing other positives and other more composure in other areas of the pitch to take hold?
Yeah, I think they've been a lot better in possession. I think I liked the system at the weekend. You know, the 4-2-3-1 system. It created a lot of space. I think there's no doubt that the introduction of Forrest coming back into the team is causing other teams problems because he's stretching the game as well, and he sometimes comes in wide out inside as well as going out wide in the right hand side, which leaves space for others. And I think, especially the way the game started, Livingston have always been dogged and difficult to break down, especially through the middle. But I thought even, with the first goal, just a simple 1-2 with Forrest, because his movement coming in off the wide area, you can see that he's been missed, and it takes the attention off other players, if you like, that and gives other people space.
It's a strange one for me because a lot of people it's obviously unfortunate they've been missing Forrest, been missing for 6 months. He was with that ankle injury. It kind of highlights to me though, Hamish, that Celtic didn't do the correct job in the transfer market and making sure that we had another winger ready to go in case Forrest was absent. Because, like Jackie says, it's not that we're over reliant on him. It's just that we're much better, I think, when we're playing in that system with 2 fit wide players. You know what I mean? So should we have signed another winger last summer?
Yeah, and I mean, we were all saying it at the time. You look at the 2 players who have replaced James Forrest in his time out. Jeremy Frimpong, who's a full-back, he's not a right winger. And Ryan Christie, who's certainly not a right winger, he's a central player. And that's where the problem's been all season, in areas like that, when we've tried to shoehorn players who don't want to play in certain formations into formations that they don't want to play in. And for me, that's been one of the key downfalls of this Celtic team this season. I'm going to put my moan and git cap on for this video. And is it not frustrating, Jackie, that we've seen, you've been to numerous games this season and we've been poor, lacklustre, and then the minute the pressure is off in a meaningless game against a Livingston team who are halfway to the beach, we're scoring 6 goals? Or am I just a moaning git?
No, the pressure is off, and I think but now there's a different kind of pressure. There's a lot of speculation about new managers coming in. There's people watching, and the players know that there's going to be people watching, and they're playing for their futures. Some of them that want to be at the club, obviously some that are looking to move. So, then there's obviously the big game next weekend that everybody will want to play in, that want to try and finish seasons in a high with the cup. And I think that's the main focus just now is try to win next weekend, and finish properly.
Another of the big talking points coming at the game is obviously Mohamed Elyounoussi Jackie. Got a double again, likes to score in doubles throughout his time at Celtic. A lot of people wondering whether he's playing for a move to Celtic or even another club with his loan coming to an end. Would you sign him up in the summer?
I mean, I was asked that before. We're actually speaking before the game, and myself and Alan, I actually said about consistency. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him do that next week, like a lot of people, and take it into the week after. I think at Celtic you have to be consistent. You have to. It's okay coming up every 5 or 6 games and doing okay 6 games later. It needs to be every game. You need to show that level of consistency and desire, and you can be unlucky in certain things, but I think with work rate and everything else with your game, wingers are predominantly all about confidence, but I still think they can affect the game even if they're not beating a man 1v1s or scoring goals. They can still affect the game by their energy and their desire to get the ball back, to go and get at people, to make things happen. And that's what I'd like to see from him, because he clearly has ability. You can see he can finish. He's had a few good finishes this season. But I'd just really like to have a real, consistency about his game where we're talking about him every week rather than, every couple of months. Oh, what about his game today? And I think there's a number of players like that. Logic, similar. Consistency week in, week out. And that's what the team needs, boys that can do it on a regular basis. And that's why we're talking about Forrest the way we are, because he has done it over the years. He's been consistent the last few years, especially when he was younger. He was kind of in and out the team, breaking through. But in the last couple of years, he has that consistency. McGregor's are consistent in their performances and the way they go out the games. And for me, Elyounoussi, I want to see him do that next week and go about it the same way.
Hamish, if, say, the YouTube channel really takes off and you've got £6 million in your pocket in the summer, would you sign Elyounoussi?
For £6 million, 100%, I would sign him. I made pretty much the same point Jackie just made there on the Saturday post-match live reaction. Elyounoussi is a player who goes through these great bursts of scoring goals, and he is. And I've never seen a player who scores braces more often, but he does then go through runs of games where he really doesn't get into them, and he doesn't maybe score a goal in 6 or 7 matches. And in the big games, probably other than Leo this season when he scored the double, he's kind of flattered to deceive in big games a lot. Maybe he's just a player who likes being a big fish in a small pond. He had his best football in Switzerland with Basel, who were the biggest team in that country, Norway as well. Clearly didn't cut it in the English Premier League and hasn't really done it in derby matches and European games for Celtic. So maybe he's just going to be a guy who scores goals in smaller games, doesn't necessarily score goals in every big game, but he has scored 17 goals this season, Jackie. Scott Sinclair in the amazing Invincible season that everyone loves scored 25. So I mean, it's not inconceivable that Elyounoussi could end up maybe a couple shy of that, which is pretty, kind of speaks its own volumes for his level of performance this season.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a good return, but it's similar to Edouard. Edouard scored a lot of goals this season as well, but he still hasn't performed the way we think he can, compared to last season or when he broke into the team. It doesn't seem to have that same kind of level, sharpness, and just think that he's going to score here, even at the weekend there. As I said, for me, it doesn't. The game at the weekend, scoring 2 goals against Livingston is great, but next weekend is where it matters. That's where you're judged as a Celtic player. You're not judged in games against, no disrespect to Livingston and others, but you're judged in games against Rangers and important games, big games where it really matters, where you need to win, and that's where I'd like to see it from him.
Yes, it's an interesting one. I mean, that is definitely the standard that we have to hold players to. I think you're spot on with that, Jackie. I think sometimes maybe get a little bit carried away when we do see players go through a little bit of a scoring burst. I'm probably one of those more like that than most. I do love seeing a player score a few goals in a few weeks. Doesn't matter whether we're playing Falkirk or Rangers, but that is undoubtedly the standard. And maybe when Celtic are making their decision on pulling the trigger on a sizable transfer fee, it will be games like that against Rangers and games in the Europa League that they'll take most note of.
We should point out he did score against Rangers 3 weeks ago. I think people watching this will probably be screaming at their iPads and whatever it is 3-0. But he did. But That was probably his best performance against them, Jackie. You think back to the cup final last year when I think, to be fair, he had a wee knock and he was off at half time.
I don't think he'd recovered properly from his injury in the cup final. In fairness to him, he didn't look the same player as he was before. He picked up that injury. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I did him a little disservice because he did score in the last game against them. A good goal, to be fair, it was as well. But I think, as I said, not just the goal, but an all-round performance against him to show that he's a real threat. And we've spoken a number of times about his position. What is his best position? And I actually I don't think he's an out-and-out winger. I don't think he's a top number 10 to play the number 10 role. But I like that kind of area, coming in off that side. He's got that finish with his right foot, and he has got pace to run at people when he's chasing the game and he sees the goals in front of him. I think that's, his strengths, whereas when he's got back to four and he's lined up against him, when he's back to goal, I don't think he's at his best. But
I agree. I think he's at his best when he's been direct. And so is Forrest, and I think that was what made the difference most on Saturday, was just they were both direct and trying to get in behind the defence, which is obviously a positive. It's a worry to see Forrest go off, Jackie? You'd want him to be fit, obviously, for the weekend.
Yeah, hopefully, like you said, I think John said that after the game, it was to do with his back, so hope that's the case. It's just a little niggle and he's a bit of tightness in his hamstring, and fingers crossed he's okay.
I've been thinking recently, and I don't know what you guys think about this, Hamish, I'll put it to you first. Obviously, James Forrest is probably going to be our most important player next season, I would suggest, with Edouard probably away, Brown definitely away, and others like Christie and I are probably away too. James Forrest, to me, strikes me as the player who's going to have the player that we're going to try and hang our hat on, really, to get back on track and challenge Rangers. Is he an outside chance to be captain, Hamish? He's been at Celtic long enough. I always used to think, he was a bit dodgy in media interviews, maybe a little bit immature, but I felt recently over the last 2 years that I've noticed the real maturity in the way he speaks and the way he talks about Celtic and presents himself at Celtic. I think it's an outside shot for me.
He has matured a lot. I know James quite well. He's from the same town, Prestwick, as me, and he's certainly matured from the guy we first saw that didn't want to do any press conferences at all, and shied away from any opportunity to be in the spotlight. He's still not on social media at all. He's very rarely. It sums him up. He's very rarely out, if at all, drinking. I mean, I know no one is at the moment, but even when places are open, you very rarely hear of James Forrest being out or at all with people. So he is quite a quiet figure. Captain, I think there's better candidates out there, but certainly I think the point of him being a key player for us next year, I just really hope he can stay fit again, because a fit James Forrest is going to score 20 plus goals, and that is something we missed badly this season. Jeremy Frimpong didn't offer nearly the same amount of goals, and even Ryan Christie has. It's been a big part out of our season. I'm not saying we would have won the league or anything, Jackie, but having James Forrest fit would have made a big difference.
Yeah, I think you can see that since he's come back into the team and getting fitter. I don't think just him scoring, but also creating for others. You spoke about Frimpong there, and that was one of the bits I didn't think his end product was good. He was exciting at times, running at people, which I like to see, which doesn't happen very much, and I think that's why he caught the eye. But defensively, he wasn't strong, and then in that last third, his final ball or his decision making wasn't quite. But he was young. He's got a lot to go. Whereas James is, he's got a lot of experience there, and he's been well coached over the years with different managers. And he has that extra quality that he's with the experience that he's got now. His decision making, and that's what separates it. It's decision making that last third, not panicking.
And I just think we really need some sort of talismanic force in that final third next season. And I know we're operating on a completely different level. I don't mean to make any comparisons at all, but I was watching the English games yesterday, and the way Cavani played for Man United, just in terms of his leadership and the way he wanted to impact the game, not even about his ability. I just think sometimes we're lacking that in the attacking area of the pitch at Celtic. And I know Edouard's got all the ability in the world, but I'm just not sure if he's got that same drive and fire that can kind of inspire other players around him. And I'd love to see more of that in the Celtic attack next year.
Yeah. No, it's one to see. Yeah, you just wonder if the new manager coming in, you would certainly assume that they'd have a striker at the top of their shopping list, especially if Edouard's going to go, and you look at the other three strikers who haven't covered themselves in glory. It's one to watch. John, how much are you missing Celtic Park?
Oh, a lot, yeah, especially in the sunshine, going for a drink before and after the game, watching Celtic regardless of who they're playing, having a bit of patter. You know, it's just, I really do miss it a lot. It's depressing how much, how little I've experienced that over the last year or so. I've not really thought about it until you just asked me there, but even those who don't have a season ticket would always probably go to Celtic 3, 4 times, 5 times a season if their work allows it, and to not even have that option is deeply depressing for me. And I know Jackie looked like he was enjoying himself at the weekend, and the people who have been lucky enough to get into games have certainly enjoyed it as well. But I think it'll make it all the more sweeter when everyone gets back. You know, it doesn't matter if there's 20,000 or 60,000. I think just having the opportunity and to get to a game next season is going to be massive for a lot of supporters.
Yeah, I won't ask you the same question, Jackie, because you got to see Celtic Park, but I'll ask you how much is it missing fans?
Oh, it's incredible. It's such a strange atmosphere because it's like training. It's like training games. You know, and I think, not making excuses for the team this season, but it must, if I'm being an ex-player and being used to that, a crowd or just atmosphere. It's even I don't know if you heard it in the telly, but at the stadium we're down the bottom end for the Christie's goal, and you can hear the Livingston managers shouting to Effie not to play that ball. You can actually hear him screaming, "No, Effie," before it comes across, and then Christie scores it. I mean, normally they said you can't hear anything.
I mean,
even
Effie Ambrose probably heard that a few times at Celtic Park over the years, Jackie.
yeah, but it was echoing right round here down the bottom end, screaming not to play it. You see him winding the left leg up to put across the field, and then the next minute's in the back of the net.
Hamish, it's getting to the point for me where, when you look at old highlights, you see all these clips going around on Twitter, and you see, famous Celtic goals of the past. These days, when a goal's going in, I'm looking to see what the crowd are doing behind the goal, and I'm looking to see the passion from the stands raining down. That's the most exciting part of these videos for me these days. That's how bad it's getting for me.
I almost forget what it's like to celebrate a goal, to hug people around you when a great goal comes in. But the good thing is that we will be reminded soon. I firmly believe that fans will be back in the next few months. I think at the start of next season, I would hope, even if it's a small percentage, fans will return. And we're never going to take fans at football for granted again, are we? It's always going to be the most important thing. Jock Stein called it all those years ago. So.
Hopefully you can lose your keys at Hampden again, Hamish.
Oh, that was a Moussa Dembele back-heel winner against Rangers. But I fear that we've reached a point that I should probably stop now. So thanks very much, guys, for chatting to me about the game. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you've not done it yet. We'll have another video with us three looking ahead to the derby against Rangers later in the week.